So we ask that everyone mute your microphone when not speaking. You'll have a chance to speak later during our breakout rooms and during our Q&A session. We'd like to also mention that this will be published later, and we'd like to respect your privacy. So if you'd like to turn your cameras off, we completely understand and respect your privacy. Just like to mention, if you're having any internet issues, try turning off your video camera or join by phone. If you're having trouble hearing, you can expand the audio setting by utilizing the arrow located to the right of the mute button, which is located in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, of your Zoom screen. Here you can select a different speaker from the menu or opt to adjust your volume. Okay, we'd like to also encourage you to use the emotions under your reactions toolbar to help convey your emotions virtually. This could be in response to something you've heard from the presenters. Please note that you will be using the chat, that we will be using the chat feature for participants to post general questions to presenters. Please refrain from posting personal questions. There will be a time for questions after the presentation. You can also raise your hand or utilize the raise your hand option under reactions to indicate that you have questions during the Q&A. And with that being said, going over the housekeeping rules and using your Zoom engagement tools, I'm going to turn it over to Kayla.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kayla. I am an RN prevention coordinator here at Ransom County Public Health. Our topic for this COP is environmental strategies to combat underage drinking. Our objectives are to discuss successes and challenges with passing a local social host ordinance, as well as strategies for maintaining community engagement and momentum in our efforts for this. Our local social host ordinance is a critical environmental strategy for preventing underage drinking, which holds adults accountable for hosting events where minors consume alcohol. It reduces alcohol accessibility to young people. It shifts community norms around underage drinking and promotes responsible adult behavior. By integrating these ordinances with broader prevention efforts, we can create a safer environment that discourages substance misuse and supports the well-being of our youth. That being said, I would like to introduce to you our first speaker, Bill Vasicek. Bill is a member of the Grand Forks Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition and formerly served as the Community Safety Coordinator for All True Health Systems, as well as the Grand Forks Drug-Free Communities Project Director. Bill will be giving a presentation about the social host liability. Bill, I will turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. You can go to the next slide, please. I'll just start here that in North Dakota, if you're a licensed liquor establishment and you serve alcohol to someone who is under 21, obviously intoxicated or incompetent, you can get in trouble, especially if that person leaves your establishment and they're seriously injured or killed, or they seriously injure or kill another person. So North Dakota law says that the families that are bringing forth the lawsuit can go after anyone they feel is responsible for the damages or the injuries. So we see the term dram shop law, and a lot of people go, what's a dram? It was a unit of measurement. It started out with whiskey, and pretty soon they just started calling bar rooms dram shops. So you can go on to the next one, please. So this one, this was a case uh, pretty long ago. And what happened in this case is some people were at a bar. When the bar closed, they left the bar with a case of beer and went to someone's home. Sitting around the kitchen table drinking about an hour into it, there was a little disagreement, and one of the people struck a person across the table, knocking him off his chair, and he fell to the ground. And then he tried to hit him again, but the fight was broken up. Everyone went home. Well, the person who got hit and ended up on the floor, he walked home, but he died of a stroke that evening while he was sleeping. So the wife came back and wanted to sue people involved because she lost her husband in this little fight. So the district court actually said, well, we're going to send it to the Supreme Court. So it went to North Dakota Supreme Court. And the question was, well, does the dram shop law apply to, social situations like wedding dances, parties, anything like that? And the Supreme Court looked at it and they basically said, yeah, the social host law can affect, not just licensed liquor establishment, but if you're furnishing liquor in a social setting and you, again, serve alcohol to someone who's under 21, incompetent or obviously intoxicated, you could be held liable. And the law says it doesn't matter if you're, you can give it away, barter it, sell it. It doesn't matter. You're furnishing liquor any way possible. You're on the hook. So next slide. So think about when you're working in prevention, your peers, your neighbors, your relatives are telling you what's the harm. We all drank when we were kids or teens. We don't see the harm in underage drinking. Well, I worked at a hospital and we saw the harm every day. We saw it in physical assaults, sexual assaults, burns, alcohol poisoning, motor vehicle crashes, and then we saw it in the schools, not doing well in academics, not doing well in sports, and we saw it, some people went on to abuse other substances. So you can go to the next one. So we're kind of looking, so we looked at what laws we have and are there any gaps? So right now, laws across the state of North Dakota is if you're under 21, you can't consume or possess alcohol. You can't provide alcohol to a person under 21. That's against the law. And we have a law that says contributing to the delinquency of a minor. So we have to remember a minor is under 18. So next slide, please. So then we talked to law enforcement and we said, well, we have a lot of underage drinking laws. We know that you're doing the best you can enforcing them, but we still have an underage drinking problem. So the different law enforcement, and we went to, sheriff's department, local police department, university police departments, and they were all telling us pretty much the same thing is when they break up an underage drinking party, how do they find out who provided the alcohol? The only way to do that is for someone at that party to, you know, let them know, and they're not going to do that. So it's usually they never find out who actually purchased or furnished the alcohol for an underage drinking party. And then they go to an underage drinking party, and it's mostly they're busting it up. They're telling everyone to go home. Why? They usually have one or two officers there, and there's probably anywhere from 30 to 70 youth. And to sit there and write 30, 70 citations, it takes a lot of time. And then they have to still contact parents, and it's a mess. A quick example of this is last year, police were called to a local bar near our university campus, report that there was underage people inside the bar drinking. Well, when they got there, they found 75 people under the age of 21 drinking. So did they write 75 citations? No, they told them to go home, which is too bad. But you know, they're kind of stuck. They didn't have the time. They don't have the resources. And then our city attorney reminded us that, well, generally, if we're going after the adults, we get them with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. And they did that at it was a teen party, high schoolers. It was a hockey team that had won a state tournament. The parents hosted a party. Alcohol was provided. A party got busted up, and the parents were charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Well, we have to keep in mind that a minor is under 18. So if the party has 18, 19, 20-year-olds, yeah, it doesn't count because they're not contributing to delinquency of a minor, even though that they're under 21. And then finally, when we look at our prosecutors, on their desks, they have a stack of felonies, a stack of misdemeanors, a stack of infractions. What are they going to concentrate on? They're going to concentrate on the felonies. So the misdemeanors, you know, they're there and they know it, but you know, they have to take care of the felonies first. So next slide, please. So we started looking into the social host law, and basically it says, and Minnesota has quite a few of them. We looked at California, I think Texas, but we started looking at them, and basically they said that a social host law, so this isn't the North Dakota social host liability, this is a social host ordinance. It says that an adult can be held liable if they're providing the venue, the environment. So if they have it at their house, at their lake cabin, if they rent a hotel room, if it's out in a shelter belt, some adult is going to be held responsible for providing that, especially, you know, if they're there, but they don't have to be there. They don't have to be present. They don't have to even purchase the alcohol. All they have to do is pretty much give them permission to say, yeah, you can have a party. We'll allow you to have a party. Next slide, please. So the social host laws that we saw across the country, there was the criminal ones, which they were either a misdemeanor or an infraction, a fine. They also went where it could be civil administrative, where it's like a parking ticket. The community can say, well, there was an underage drinking party at your house. We broke it up. It happened at your house. We're going to issue you a citation, a ticket, and you have to go to the judge and pay the fine. So you can set that, you know, it might be $500, it might be $300, but it doesn't even have to go to court. It could just be something that they have to go before the city council to plead their case that they're innocent or whatever. Or liquor control board, something like that. So there's that option. And then finally, a community can say, we're sending all these resources. We're breaking up parties like in Grand Forks at this certain frat house. We're there every weekend. And we have to send several law enforcement, sometimes EMS is involved, sometimes the fire department. And it's just a waste of resources trying to break up this drinking party every week. So the city can actually have them pay for cost of services, those resources as a deterrent. So yeah, whether they hold parent or landlord, whoever responsible, they're saying we have to keep coming back to your property, fix it, or you're going to pay for every time we come, you're going to pay for the resources that we're using. Next slide. So then if you're looking at a social host ordinance, we have the criminal side, the civil side. So again, prosecutors, they give infractions, misdemeanors a low priority. So it's not going to be that important to them. Also with a social host law, under the criminal, if it's a criminal act, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And when we passed ours, we had our city prosecutor sit down with law enforcement and let them know what she needed at that time to prosecute the social host or under the social host ordinance. Because it's not just, I looked in the window and I saw him drinking. Yeah, there was more to that. She wanted beyond the reasonable doubt evidence. And then you have to prove that the person you're charging the social host law with knowingly allowed that party to happen. So we heard an example of that. Let's say that two adult parents, they leave town for a mini vacation. They leave town for the weekend. Their teenage son decides to have a party. They get back. They know there was a party there. They know alcohol was involved. They didn't know anything about it until they got back. So the next time they take a mini vacation, do they do anything to make sure that that's not going to happen again? If they don't do anything and it happens again, they get busted. Or it happens a couple times and they get busted. Yeah, if they're not going to do anything about it, they're probably going to charge them. If they're doing their best to try to stop that party from happening, yeah, then they're probably not going to get charged. Once we go on the civil side, again, the burden of proof, it's just basically saying it's more likely than not that they provided alcohol, provided a venue for that. So the burden of proof is less. And then again, the fines can be just a civil fine. They don't even have to go to court. They just pay it like a parking ticket and they go on their way. But, if we're just trying to deter the underage drinking, and a social host is one way to do it. Another law we have in Grand Forks that was passed before the social host was called the noisy party. And at the time in Grand Forks, there was a lot of large drinking parties. A lot of underage people attended those parties, getting called in all the time. So they created an ordinance saying that people can complain, or if an officer is patrolling and they can hear a loud party, noisy party within 50 feet of the residence, they can go in and break up the party. So if they have a complaint or it's really noisy, sometimes they say they go in and they say, well, You're pretty noisy, keep it down. If they have to come back, they bust it up. When this ordinance first came out, there was approximately 300 underage drinking party violations. And last year in 2023, under the noisy party ordinance, there was 18 citations. So going from, so we're saying that the parties are still happening. They're just smaller and they're quieter, so they're not disturbing the neighborhood. Next slide, please. So yeah, you can keep collecting. I didn't realize this was get them all in there. So when we were trying to bring a social host ordinance to our city council, city council members were, the majority of them were opposed to it. We don't need another law, they said. We have enough laws. What we need is education. Our city attorney, and these are all public statements, our city attorney told us that he's totally against it. Our city prosecutor told us she's totally against it. The UND Student Senate got together and they created some proclamation or something saying they're against it. When we were at the city council meetings, we had a lot of university students and students from the Greek community getting up and being opposed to the social host ordinance. I'm not sure why, but our Chamber of Commerce publicly opposed the ordinance. And then landlords and property owners, and their opposition was, well, if they're having an underage drinking party in my apartment complex, you know, I don't want to get fined for that. And the parents were saying the same thing. If my kid has a party, I don't want to get fined for my kid having a party, you know, if I don't know about it. We did have support from substance abuse prevention people in the community, those that have to deal with the issues. We had full support from the law enforcement, and we had support from other substance abuse prevention advocates. So next slide. Okay. So what happened is we thought, you know, we kind of came to a dead end. We had a lot of opposition. And we're wondering, how are we going to try to pass this? And I basically thought we're done, we lost. We had the conversation. Community's not ready for this. Well, then one of the committees I was on at the time was called the Campus Community, Campus Community Committee to reduce excessive alcohol use. So this was a committee put together by the mayor of Grand Forks and the president of the university. And the committee was chaired by a council person named Ken Veen and a vice president for student affairs from UND, Lori Reeser. Lori Reeser and Ken Veen, when they looked at that we're probably not going to be able to pass a social host ordinance, they went into kind of battle mode. And I think the reason is because the Campus Community Committee, we came up with 10 things to address. Social host was one, drink specials, and the list went down, party buses, this and that. And they thought, we're going to choose 2 to focus on, which was social host and extreme drink specials. Looked like the social host was going to fail. And we have spent, you know, months and many man hours, many, you know, people were doing a lot of work behind the scenes on this. And they thought, we can't let this fail. So they went, and I believe they went and talked to people out of the meetings. So they're not at the city council meetings. They're talking to people in their offices, on the street, on the phone. and we come back for the second reading and they pass it. And it was just a shock. So it was April 2015 when they passed. It went into effect August 2015. So next slide, please. So one of the things our coalition did is they asked us to help let the people in our community know that there will be an ordinance called social host, and what it pertains, what you can, what you can't do. So we had billboards, we had hang tags for apartment complexes for the doors. Next slide. We were on the radio with an announcement. Next slide. And then our city was getting a lot of questions. So the city attorney at the time, bless his heart, he came up with a frequently asked questions. And it was like 2 pages, but it basically spelled out what you could or couldn't do. And that was nice to have, because that went out. It was on the city website. It went out to the press. Our coalition helped distribute it. And it was a way to answer a lot of questions people had about the social host. So next one. So I'll take questions.
If anyone has any questions for Bill, please utilize the reaction button to raise your hand and we will go from there.
And now, since 2015, the last time I checked, no one had ever been issued a citation for social host. I talked to law enforcement recently, and they believe that it was used once, but I can't find where that was used. So our prosecutor, I guess when there's an issue, they're trying to find a harsher penalty than the social host, because the social host we enacted was a infraction, and the fine, you go to court and it's up to $1,500. So it can be 0 to 1,500. Police tell me it's been used once. They say that the prosecutors would rather use something with a larger penalty.
Okay, it looks like we have a question from Vanessa.
So when you went and you said you had 2 on the table, did the extreme drink specials pass too from those one-on-one conversations, or was it just the social host?
The extreme drink specials, it was mainly the hospitality industry that came up against that. But there was some, what we were saying with the extreme drink specials is like, women drink free all night. There was just some weird things going on, like this one bar, if you came in on your birthday, you got a birthday bucket. It was a bucket filled with beer. So, and that was free. And so we were trying to think, well, limit the binge drinking for adults at the time. And so they were looking at things like all you can drink for $5, all you can drink for $10. We had one bar that was doing 3-for-1s, and they were known for it. They were highly against it. And of course, we can still have 2-for-1s, 3-for-1s, 5-for-1s. It doesn't matter. But it's where you can't just go to a bar and get alcohol for like one cost for the whole night or for free. There has to be, you have to buy drinks kind of individually. So.
Okay, we'll take the next 2 questions and then we'll move on to our next presenter. If you have any questions following that, please submit them via chat. So Isabel.
Yeah, so a quick question. I know you said that you don't know, or you think that, or they told you that they used it maybe once since it got passed, but do you think since it was implemented and the awareness about it, that there were less that it hindered people from having more
That-
parties?
That's possible because there was a lot of, while we were trying to get it to pass after it passed, a lot of conversations, a lot of radio, television interviews, a lot of discussion. So our members would go to social clubs. We were talking to the hospitality industry. We were talking to the hotel industry, landlords, so we're just trying to get their feel why they would be against it. And like the UND Senate, they're against it because they have frat houses, sorority houses, and they have parties, and people are under 21 attending those parties, and they know it. They didn't want to get, fined for that. So,
Tom, I saw your hand raised. Did you still have a question?
No, Izzy was reading my mind. That was exactly what I was going to ask.
Okay.
It's about,
Okay.
did you
Yeah.
feel that it kind of prevented some of that from happening? But both laws passed, right, Bill? Both the drink specials and the social host passed, I believe.
correct.
And was that
Correct.
at the same time?
Yes.
And did you feel like there was one thing that helped it be more like, what was the one thing that you would say helped it pass?
The one thing that helped the social host is we had those two champions behind the scene, I basically lobbying for it. They had the connections, they had the authority. And I think I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I think that's what did it, because we were coming up to the second reading with a lot of opposition, and the city council passed it. Not an issue. So.
All righty, Kayla, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you to introduce our next presenter.
Sounds great. Thank you, Bill, for all that great information on the social host. Next up for our guest speaker is Vanessa Bager, as well as Sheriff Travis Paper. They're going to present a recent case study from Sargent County. Vanessa was raised in Telluride, Colorado, and moved to North Dakota in 2013. Vanessa worked as the office deputy at the Sargent County Sheriff's Department from 2016 to 2021. She also became a deputy coroner for Sargent County from 2017 to 2021. In 2021, Vanessa and her family moved to Huntsville, Alabama, where she continued her career as a medical legal death investigator from 2021 to 2022. In 2022, Vanessa, her husband, and two little girls moved back to North Dakota, where she began working for Sargent County District Health Unit as a prevention coordinator. Vanessa is also the deputy coroner for Sargent County and a co-founder of True Direction Mentoring. Vanessa is a member of the North Dakota Mass Casualty Team, the Healthy Sargent County Coalition, North Dakota Emergency Medical Services, North Dakota Emergency Medical Services Association. She is a part of the Sargent County 4-H as a co-leader. She also does Thrill Hills Ski Patrol as an EMT patroller. In her spare time, if she has any, she enjoys riding horses, wakeboarding, or anything else outdoors with her family. Next is Sheriff Travis Paper. He was born and raised in North Dakota. Travis began his law enforcement career in 1993 as an undercover agent for Grand Forks Sheriff's Department. He then became a deputy sheriff, for Sargent County Sheriff's Department in 1995. In 2002, he was elected as sheriff for the Sargent County Sheriff's Department. Travis is a member of the North Dakota Police Officers Association, the North Dakota Sheriff and Deputies Association, the North Dakota Fraternal Order of Police. He's also president of the Sargent County Personnel Board and part of the Healthy Sargent County Coalition. In his spare time, Travis loves to be outside hunting and playing golf. I will turn it over to Vanessa and Sheriff Paper.
Thank you for that lengthy intro, Kayla. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have Brenda Peterson, our health department admin in my office. Our state's attorney, Janie Fow, is in attendance, and our emergency manager, Wendy Wilprecht, is also here for Sargent County. So Sargent County is located in the southeast region of North Dakota. Go to the next slide. Just a little background on us. We have a small population of 3,776 people, 93.1% Caucasian, 94% high school graduates or higher with an education. The median household income is 75,000. Population per square mile is about 4.5 people. Our main industry is bobcat, and also farming. You can go to the next slide. So our asset is that we are rural. It's very much so our deficit as well. Next slide, please. So just a little background for our logic model. We did quite a few different surveys, collected information from our YRBS survey, and it showed that 92% of adults agree underage drinking is a problem in their community. 53.85% of participants believe underage drinking is a problem within Sargent County specifically. Why is this a problem? 23.7% of high school students currently drink alcohol, and 20.6% of middle school students drink alcohol currently. Locally, it is believed that this is a problem because of the social norm. 24% of North Dakota agrees that drinking among teenagers is acceptable. Per our local Survey Monkey that we posted, 88.4% of participants say that they would like to see an increase in law enforcement. Next slide, please. So the plan was that we would like to make an environmental change within the social norm regarding underage drinking. Next slide, please. So we collected local data. This specifically is from the Sheriff's Department. And if you see in the bottom portion of the chart, cases involving alcohol is quite high. So in 2017, it started as 15.7%. And in 2022, it went up all the way to 50%. Cases involving drugs went down from 18% in 2017 to 7% in 2022. So we can see just from this information that a lot of the crime here is driven by alcohol. There is a low number of juvenile cases for our collection of data. Next slide, unless you have anything you want to add. So right before we had this COP meeting, the planning committee meeting, we had an incident that hit the news. And if we could play that video.
Hi, Matt McGregor here, your local sales representative for Cashway Distributing. I'm here at Teddy's.
Alcohol commercial.
Introduce Jim to you.
I'm a chef here at Teddy's Eatery in Back Alley Bar in
Convenient, right?
downtown Fargo. For us, Cashway has been a lot more than just a distribution service.
For you tonight, video captures the moment a teen was lit on fire in Sargent County this week. It shows the teen walking around a shop when another boy sprays him with brake cleaner. Moments later, investigators say Lance Tyler used a torch to ignite him. Tyler has been charged with aggravated assault. The video ends with the boy's sweatshirt bursting into flames as he runs up a flight of stairs trying to put it out. Officials say the boy suffered second-degree burns on his face and neck.
So Sheriff, I'll let you take over on this one, give a little background information or anything like that.
Okay, so just bear with me, people. Just to kind of give you an understanding of the dynamics of this particular incident. This happened at a farm, a large farm in our county. There's basically 4 brothers that farm together. They're nearing retirement age. 3 of those 4 brothers have had sons, daughters, their families have moved on. They're all now taking over the farm, and those sons are starting to have children. So, there's 3 generations we're talking about here. So the weekend that this happened, we weren't made aware of this at all. It wasn't reported to us. It was Super Bowl Sunday, or the Super Bowl weekend. So during the Super Bowl, I started getting some text messages and phone calls from concerned parents in Dickey County that were concerned about a party that happened, that parties have continued to happen at this particular farm, which we were unaware of, and that a young man was started on fire and was burnt pretty severely. So gathered this information Sunday night. Monday morning, we started to roll with it. We went over to Oaks, started interviewing individuals that we were made aware that were present. We were also aware of a video that was supposedly surfaced, a Snapchat video. So after doing interviews with a handful of kids that were present, and they were for the most part pretty cooperative. Of course, they don't want to have that label as being a rat or a snitch, but I think for the most part they saw the significance of what happened. So they gave us the information, and eventually we were able to get a copy of the video. At what time, what basically surprised me is when I was thinking of this scenario of this young man getting lit on fire, I was just thinking it was going to be on his shirt sleeve and he's going to tamp it out. I didn't realize how serious this was when he went up in a big fireball. So that was one part of this party. Like I said, we did interviews. There was probably 30 to 40 kids there. We don't have an exact number. And we haven't charged anybody with underage drinking because our investigation at this point focused on, the assault on the individual. That was more important to us at the time than the underage drinking. So we wanted to get as much information and good statements without scaring away these witnesses. So we were able to do that. Another incident that arose from this particular party, and again, this hits home with me because my son was involved, but he was at this party as well. I didn't know it at the time, but when they left the party, he left with somebody who was reported to have not been drinking, but again, with reckless behavior and reckless decisions, they were involved in a motor vehicle accident. It was minimized initially that they just swerved to miss a deer. But it ended up being that they were traveling at 130 miles an hour, left the roadway, went into a spin, hit an approach, and to this day, I don't know how they didn't roll or they didn't die. Neither one of them had their seatbelts on, but all these incidents or all these scenarios stemmed from this one incident at this farm site. And again, through these interviews that we've done with some of the kids and some of the parents, this was happening frequently at this particular farm. And again, going back to the description of the area, it's the family farm site, and all the outbuildings there, all the equipment's there, the grain bins are there. The family that lives on site for this particular case, they claim to have no knowledge that this party was happening. I think they were gone. So it's kind of like what Bill had alluded to earlier, that, you know, when parents leave, kids tend to have a party without their knowledge. So, but parties have been happening there in the past. They've taken guns out, pointed guns at each other. Again, just a lot of poor decisions and reckless behavior. So that's kind of the synopsis of what took place. And this is still all pending in the court system. So, you know, the state's attorney's done a good job at charging this out. I think we've covered our bases as far as the assault goes. But again, it goes back to, I don't know how we can charge some of the people with underage drinking. I mean, there's a video, it's a short 8-second video, but you can't quite tell if they're consuming alcohol. I mean, we all know they are, but to be able to prove that in a courtroom without them admitting the drinking would be near impossible to get criminal charges for underage drinking. So that's kind of my rundown of it.
So, I had received, after the news article hit social media, I had received quite a few emails from all community members and prevention specialists saying, hey, this is gonna really get some momentum behind your prevention efforts, hopefully. So, that kind of hit home too, that we needed to do something as a team together. So some of our prevention efforts have been to partner with the sheriff's office. We have brought in an SRO officer into the schools. Not we, the sheriff's office has. We have partnered with them in helping this. So there is a full-time SRO officer in all 3 schools within Sargent County. He is currently doing the DARE program, Keeping It Real, with all 5th grade students, and in one school he's also doing the 6th grade class. We also did a couple of infomercials with our surrounding counties as kind of a team partnership to help spread the word. We had these messages broadcasted. They will be on Beck TV all year. And then they were also on WDAY for both the girls and boys state B basketball tournaments. And we have reached quite an abundance of people with that, which I thought was wonderful. And I believe next slide has those 2 commercials.
I'm a diesel technician.
I am a coach.
I am a firefighter.
I am a nurse.
I am a sheriff.
I am a loan officer.
I am a teacher, and together we all know underage drinking has a negative effect on brain development. Let's keep substances out of the hands of our youth. This message is brought to you by your Southeast Region Prevention Specialists.
Maybe I only give you one. Anyways, so what we are doing next, we are trying to take the momentum from this and educate our youth on the negative effects of alcohol use. We are utilizing our ID scanners, or we're trying to set them up. So we are currently creating a policy change within, or a policy creation within Sargent County Sheriff's Office to include them to go and gather these IDs if they are found. We also have a policy with our retailers saying that they're going to work with us with these ID scanners. We have one that is going to be utilized. Hopefully this week we'll get it out into the community. And then we hope to be able to order more ID scanners and disperse of them within our community more. And then we want to hopefully start working on a social host ordinance within the county, pending what Tom has information on regarding the Association of Counties info that he was sharing with us.
And then, let's go back for surgery.
We also hope to get some responsible beverage server training within the community to all of our retailers as well. So I think that's it. Next slide, maybe. Does anyone have any questions for us?
I guess one more comment I'd make, just to kind of follow up with what Vanessa said, was she was receiving emails from people in the community concerned about this event. And it's pretty rare that other parents complain about people hosting parties. This was one where multiple parents had contacted us and said, hey, we're sick of it. We know these are going on. You guys may not necessarily know about it, but you need to do something about this. Our son, our daughter's going out there. They're having parties frequently. So it got to the point where it was a big enough problem where people were actually coming to us and saying, hey, you guys need to do something to stop these parties from taking place. And I don't know if they were referring to this one particular farm or in general, but it was something that we usually don't hear is parents complaining about people hosting parties. So that was kind of new for us to get those complaints.
So we'll open up the floor to take a couple of questions. Again, raise your hand, Tom.
Yeah, I just had a question. Good information, you guys. I had a question about, like, do you believe a social host law in the county would have helped to prevent this? And if so, how? Like, has that ever been a discussion? Like, would it have prevented this potentially?
So I don't know the answer if it would have. I think it is going to serve as a deterrent. It's to some extent, but in this particular scenario, you've got, like you said, you've got a family farm, and then you've got people within that farm that are spread out. If there's people coming and going at these farms all the time in rural Sargent County, so I don't think it would. I don't know if it would have deterred it from happening, because the people that where the shop party was, it's all one big family, so they all have access to it. I guess I don't know if the elders on the farm site would put their foot down. I think they have now. I think they've had a family discussion about we're done with this shit, basically. It's how they put it. So you go talk to your son, you make sure your son's not having parties out there anymore. It's a good question. I don't know if it deterred it or not.
Yeah, we're finding that with other states that have implemented these laws, it can work as a really good deterrent in just the way that you could notify these individuals who are allowing this to occur and saying that, hey, you should have reasonable knowledge that this is happening. You know, we've heard that this is not the only time this has happened. We've heard this has happened in the past. So now we're just making you aware. You should knowingly know that this is going to happen. So you got to start monitoring your premises and things like that. So I was just wondering, in your specific case, how about like with the dram shop law? Does that apply to this situation? Because my understanding is that North Dakota law with the dram shop law is that it applies to anyone, not just retailers. So that if somebody provided the alcohol, and I don't know, in this case, it was a minor under the age of 21 that got burned, did somebody provide the alcohol for this party, and then would dram shop then take an effect? That you're aware, or even if you can speak to it or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that I can speak to that about dram. You know, I just learned something today. I was aware of the dram shop law, and I figured that just applied to bars, restaurants. I didn't realize that it could be implemented with, you know, personal property, or, like you said, just local social events. Even without the dram shop, as far as what happened to the young man, I mean, there could be civil issues for the farm itself. And it's a rather large and successful farm. So whether they serve, you know, they get sued, their farm insurance, you know, luckily nobody got killed. You know, whether the incident with the fireball or the car accident, I mean, that could have been 3 separate lawsuits to that family potentially. You know, if those, and there still could be with the one kid that was injured. You know, he's got some long-term medical issues, and it's probably going to be disfiguring. So whether his family decides to pursue anything civil or not, I would imagine there'd be some culpability there. But I'm not an attorney, I guess.
Bill?
I just wanted to commend your team on how you handled the situation. I think you're doing the right thing. It's too bad that that happened, but I think you're going in the right direction.
We made a decision. I spoke with our state's attorney, and when this happened, I figured there was going to be out in the media, Valley News Live. They'd got a tip through their whistleblowers, but we had made the decision prior to that. We were going to do a media release, a press release on this to just get the information out there and make these parents aware that, hey, these are the things that are going on in your child's life and be involved. So we talked to the victim's family. They were on board. We had to do some blurring of some images because there were juveniles involved, but we were going to make sure that I wish this wouldn't to happen, period. But if there's any good out of this, we were able to get the message out and make people aware that these are issues that are occurring in our area, not just Sargent County, but the Southeast and the whole state for that matter.
I'll just add one more thing. I'm sorry. We also did implement the ND tip line right after this happened, just to give kids the ability to report this anonymously if they did feel the need. So that is also going.
Yeah, that's
All right.
awesome to hear about the tip line. We're finding that kids are more apt to use it in situations where there could be somebody around them. They don't want to call law enforcement, but they're more apt to tip the law enforcement through a text message. So that's awesome to hear. Yeah, good.
All right, we'll take one more question. Isabel?
Yeah, so and again, like Bill said, commend you guys on using the momentum from those incidences as a way to start implementing change in the community. I guess I do have one question for this or the case study. Was the goal in general to reduce underage drinking in the community? And I guess the reason why I asked that just generally is so for the what next with the like different ID scanners, and I'm thinking, we were talking about this in one training I was at previously, but if youth are going in and their IDs are getting taken from like bars or liquor stores, if then they do go then to getting trying to get it from parents or from family friends, and then that looks more like getting together at a house or something. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but if like trying to do those things at the same time would maybe push people to wanting to have more parties by themselves where they're getting alcohol from their parents or getting alcohol from an aunt or uncle or something, if that makes sense.
There is, I've been in the county here for a while now, and in the past, like the deputies, myself, weekend nights, it used to be just, it would be all alcohol related with kids. I mean, they would drink every weekend, they would drive around, and that that trend is wavered a little bit. But the one thing that we would hear from parents that would allow parties to take place is, well, they're going to drink anyways, so we just soon have them drink at our place so we can control it or have some control over it, which isn't really the case, because they're not taking the keys from these kids. They're not letting 30, 40, 50 kids sleep overnight in their shop. They're just providing a place for them to consume. And what happens at 3, 4 in the morning when parents are in bed, these kids are sneaking off and they're driving home anyways. But that was a common thing that we'd heard, is that, well, the kids are going to do this anyway, so we're just going to provide a safe environment for them to do it.
I think doing them both together, I feel that the parties are happening with local kids. I'm hoping that with the scanners, it's going to be the kids that come from out of town that they don't know, that are trying to utilize the fake IDs and then providing to the parties. It is the way I look at it.
Well, and just to add to that, this collaboration needs to go beyond Sargent County. Because what we've seen in the past is, okay, we're buckling down on underage drinking. We're going to the party spots, you know, the tree groves, the old farmsteads. We're being real proactive in our policing. Well, that just pushes them into the next county. You know, they go right over the county line because, well, don't mess around in Sargent County because the sheriff's office is tough. They're cracking down on underage drinking, so they just drive into Dickey County or up into Ransom or any neighboring county. They just go find another spot. So we just can't push them into the next jurisdiction and say that, okay, we've stopped underage drinking. We just push it into a different venue, really. So there needs to be, you know, cooperation with the surrounding areas in general.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you to the presenters. What we're going to do now is we're going to break you all into breakout rooms to discuss strategies to build and sustain meaningful partnerships in your own communities. We have provided a list of conversation starters on the screen here for you all to choose from. Within those rooms, please appoint a note taker and someone to report out to the larger group once we reconvene. And we will have you all meet for about 10 minutes and then we'll pull you all back into the main meeting. It still did the countdown for some reason. So we got about 25 seconds left. All right, looks like we got a majority of the group back. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with room 1. If you can report out on your question and what you all came up with during your conversation.
Go ahead. What room were we?
I was just thinking the same thing. I don't know if I paid attention to what room I was in.
Uh-oh. Tom, I think you were
3.
in room 1.
Was I room? Was I room 1?
All right, so room 1 consisted of Bill. Wait a minute. Vanessa, Tori, Sarah, Lori, Chris, Chelsea, Cassandra.
I wrote down a couple of values and goals. We all talked about the value of life and the safety of our youth. We talked about harm reduction. And as a parent, it made us think, and this could actually just be any of us. This could happen to any of us. We talked about maybe bringing in some lawyers, state's attorneys, or insurance agents and talking with them on the repercussions of having like a shop party like we did. Anybody else feel free to add in. We didn't get much past the first or second questions. We had a lot of great discussion.
Sounds good. Thank you for that feedback, Chris. Anyone else have anything to add to that from room 1? Okay, so we'll move on to room 2. There we had Kayla, Cheryl, Isabel, Jordan, Megan, Misty, and Wendy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Wilbrecht. I'm the emergency manager for Sargent County. We mimicked the values of group 1 with safety and health of our youth as being our true values and priorities. The goals that we have to get the community involved, just education effects of underage drinking, but one thing that we talked a lot about is talking with them rather than at them. And there was a discussion about assemblies being very impactful within the schools. When kids hear raw, real stories that are relative, they tend to absorb that and take something away from it. I have some experience. I have a 19-year-old, a 21-year-old, both sons, and those are the things that stick in their minds, the things they can see, hear, feel, rather than data or suggestions or, you should know better, or this is what's going to happen if you don't do the right things. They need to see, per se, this young man that was burned at the party. They need to see him in front of them to see, oh my gosh, this is something that can happen. This is something this gentleman's going to live with for the rest of his life. I don't want that to be me. And I don't want to be the kid that could be wearing handcuffs someday because that's what I did. To me, as being a parent, I know that those are the things that have made a difference in my son's life. And I would have to say that that would be true for most youth. They need to see it, hear it, feel it. And we talked about trying to really explain to kids the long-term effects of what underage drinking can lead to. Not only can it lead to things like your sports being taken away, you could lose scholarships, things like that. Something we didn't necessarily talk about, but something that I always think about is alcohol can also lead into other ways of trying to get that same high. If you start drinking when you're 15 years old, what are you going to do at 19 years old when you're tired of just the same old feeling that alcohol gives? Now, are we going to be looking to a gateway drug? Things like that. Information, I think, would be very important for children to understand that one many times or can lead to another. We did get to the third question of effective ways to help keep the momentum and expand with diverse partners. The momentum, again, was to keep the personal stories and real raw discussions fluent and flowing. And one of the participants said, go to meetings that are already organized, like in a hospital or a Kiwanis meeting. Talk to schools that have groups already that are organized that might not understand the issue, might not understand where our youth are at in this, underage drinking era. And maybe they would have their eyes open and have some ideas that they could share with us, some different ways of helping the youth within their scope and their reach and their abilities. So not necessarily reinventing the wheel, just looking at what other partners do we have in our community that could be pivotal in providing different outreach or even mindsets. So feel free to jump in, group 2, if you have anything else you'd like to add.
Wendy, I think you nailed it. We had a lot of great conversation on those first 2 questions, and you did an awesome job. I think you covered everything.
Yep, great feedback, great ideas as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to room 3, and forgive me if I say your name wrong because I always do it. Brina, Deb, Jenna, Lindsay, and Tom.
Yeah, I can speak really quick. So we talked more about the barriers, like what we're seeing in North Dakota with the barriers around some of these policies and prevention in general. And we spoke about how our communities are rural and it's difficult to make some of the changes because of those social norms, because alcohol is not a drug, there's other things that are drugs. And there's a lot of people that don't want to be seen as the bad guy or, the prohibitionist. So there's not a whole lot of momentum to make some of these policy changes and things like that. And then I was talking about at the state level, usually we have to see policies change at the local level first before we get buy-in from our state legislatures. And currently Grand Forks is the only city in North Dakota that has, a social host law. So there would have to be some local momentum to really get the buy-in at a state level to make some of these changes. And then we did speak a little bit about, counties and like some of the laws that they are able to pass and what they're not able to pass. And if a county has a home rule charter, the home rule charters can all be different. But we did find out from some of the state's attorneys that home rule charters for counties can't pass criminal law. So I don't know specifically. I know that the social host law typically falls under criminal law. And so even if a county had a home rule charter that's allowed them to pass ordinances, they could not implement a social host law because it's criminal. Now, my question would be, is an administrative fee criminal? Is there a way that we can get around that? Is like, what is all underneath what is considered criminal law to help pass some of these policies and things like that? So just some more discussion that we have to take or have to have and things like that. But yeah, that's kind of what we got. If anybody has anything to add on group 3, sure can.
Thank you for that, Tom. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating. Please take a moment to complete a brief evaluation that will help us improve this COP and plan topics. For our next meeting, I've posted the link in the chat. That being said, Tom, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
You got it. Yeah, thanks everyone for being in on this. It was great hearing from our local experts. Thank you to Bill, Vanessa, and Travis for really giving us that good information. Thank you for the community of practice planning committee. You guys did a great job of putting this together. Thank you, Growth Partners, for bringing this in as well. Your expertise in other states and stuff really helps us here in North Dakota. This is one of the first communities of practice that we've ever had in North Dakota when it comes to prevention. So thank you for that. We'd like to bring in other experts and potentially some national speakers. So please be sure to fill out that evaluation. We really want this to be about you, about what you want to have and learn more about to help you sustain your work, to help you implement these strategies locally. So fill out that evaluation. Let us know what you're thinking. Is there a topic of interest that you want to hear more about? Because we're going to continue with these communities of practice, and we want to really help you build your capacity to implement some of these things locally. So as always, let me know if you have any questions. And again, thank you for your time, and thank you to all of those who put in time for this first community of practice in North Dakota on prevention. So thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I think we had a great first COP or communities of practice as far as the planning committee. Please expect a doodle poll from me very soon so we can get this next COP on the books. I really do appreciate everyone participating.
Absolutely. And this recorded event will be on the grantee portal. So you can watch this at any time.
And Tom, we'll get that over to you as soon as everything wraps up on our end. We'll get that over to you so it can be posted.
Got it.